the volume up?
You are now live, yeah?
Oh, it wasn't. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this evening's webinar on tapping into the universal law of giving and receiving in tenfold. The actual law is actually called the law of compensation. And there's many universal laws that have been around for a very, very long time. But right now is a very unprecedented time that we're living on this planet, because these universal laws are available to us in a way that they never have been before. Because in previous lifetimes, there was so much density that people wouldn't be able to understand the responsibility that came along with using these universal laws and the integrity that was necessary. So just recently, these laws have been available to us, and they're very, very powerful, and we can really master these laws and really create our lives the way we want. There's an excellent book by Norma Milanovic called The Light Shall Set You Free. And in that book, she goes over all the universal laws. I highly recommend it. And I've drawn a lot of my information from that book. And also from my own life experience. I think we all just traverse so many fields where we try to get it right. You know, we try to master ourselves. We try to be positive. You know, we've learned a lot about manifestation, and you know, from way back when The Secret came out, and then to most recently, where we're understanding now that there's a lot of subtleties, and it's a little bit more complex than what we originally thought. So tonight I'm going to talk about this particular universal law called the law of compensation. And within the law of compensation, there's another kind of sub-law that when you give, you will receive in tenfold. And I'm going to go into the details about that particular act of giving. But before I do, that's going to be a little bit more toward the middle of the evening. It's important that I lay a foundation. And so we're going to go over cause and effect first. That's another universal law. We need to understand a little bit more about cause and effect and how that works into the law of compensation. And I was thinking earlier, and I was praying and meditating, and I was asking for guidance as to what would be the best way to lay out this information. And it came to me that if I use myself as an example, that might be a really easy way for you to relate to your life circumstances. So I'm just going to begin with telling you a little bit about myself. So I think you all already know that my name is Ashley Torres. And 10 years ago, I lived in Vancouver, Canada, and I had an interior design firm, and I had a successful art gallery. I had a couple cars. I was a single mom, and I was spiritual, but I wasn't as conscious by any means as I am today, 10 years later. And when I lived in Vancouver, of course, that's a major city, and I had come from a corporate background of 20 years. And I always learned, you know, communication skills and, you know, how to have an edge, how to get ahead. So all of the training that I had received in the corporate world was all about, you know, really exerting your will and pushing forward and having goals and having direction. Goals and direction are excellent to have, for sure. But the way that I learned about my goals and my direction in terms of wanting to get ahead, wanting to do well financially, wanting to take care of myself and my daughter, was a little different. I multitasked so much. I mean, I had my two businesses simultaneously, you know, my design business and my art gallery. And a lot of people do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey so you'll understand how this fits into what we're going to be talking about tonight. So I was racing around Vancouver. I was just like in my car all the time. I worked 7 days a week. Within, I think, 3 years, I had 5 car accidents. So, which obviously means I was not grounded. I was not in my body. And I did well. My gallery was very successful, and my interior design business was successful, but I was absolutely exhausted. I drank a lot of coffee. My life at that time, I did meditate every single day. I prayed, and I really brought God into everything that I did. But, you know, living in the city, and before that I lived in LA for 20 years, my relationship to the material world was very strong. And I really thought in order to be safe in the world or to be okay, you know, that I needed certain things, right? And, or especially what I was attached to was success. Ever since I was a little girl, I always said that I really wanted to be independent and to have a very successful business. And that was associated to inner child things that I've already healed. I didn't want anybody to control me or tell me what to do. So I embarked on becoming Superwoman. And so while I was in this, what they used to call a rat race, you know, trying to get ahead, trying to be successful, I did all my own marketing. You know, my gallery, I was in the paper all the time, and I sold 75% of my inventory every month. And I went from being like an interior designer to branching off to working for developers and doing big projects. So, you know, I just really, really worked super hard at gaining the success I gained. And so all my friends, we would, you know, get together, we'd go out to 5-star dinners. And this was my life, you know, the dinners, you know, the high-end jobs, the title, you know, that I'm an interior designer. There was a lot of ego attached to everything that I did, although I didn't know it at the time. I was, you know, I was a giver. I was very loving and kind, but there's definitely a lot of ego attachments to what I look like, to my title, to how I acted, you know. And I always thought I had to position myself a certain way in my business because that's how I was trained in the corporate world. So I had a complete life changing event happen for me. My daughter moved to Sedona, Arizona, and asked me to move there. And after a couple years, I agreed to move there. So unbeknownst to me, the universe had some different plans for me. And little did I know that I was going to lose everything, absolutely everything, and I was going to start with absolutely nothing in my new life in Sedona, Arizona. Now, Sedona, Arizona is very well known as a spiritual mecca. It's also known to be a place for spiritual initiation. So years later, I found out that I was really embarking on a spiritual initiation that was going to last 7 years, but I had no idea. Now, while I was in Vancouver, I'll back up a little bit, and before I moved to Sedona, I really wanted to take my meditations to a deeper level. And I was introduced to the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. And so I was attending an ashram there, and I was going very deeply into my meditations, and I was starting to have a lot of experiences, spiritual experiences that were quite profound. I actually was able to experience the entire oneness of the whole universe, and I felt that immense love that just radiates for everybody all at once, and I understood what the oneness meant. So my soul was really wanting more, but in my 3D body here on this earth, I wasn't getting there fast enough. So my soul was calling for more, and that's what will happen to us before we go into like a spiritual initiation. So when I moved to Sedona, Arizona, a lot of things went wrong. In my eyes, they went wrong. Really, they were fantastic. But I sure didn't feel that way at the time. And so, first of all, I ended up with no car. Here I had 2 cars in Vancouver, and I wasn't paid for the car that I sold. And then they wouldn't allow me to finance a car in Sedona because all my credit was based in Canada. And it was because of 9/11, they wouldn't finance people with credit outside of the country. So here I'm, all of a sudden I'm going to start my new life and I have no car. And and I stayed with my daughter for a little while, and eventually I rented a condo, and I was given a 1977 Toyota, and so we're going to get into how important gratitude is. So this is my journey, okay? So I found myself from having what I thought everything in Vancouver to all of a sudden overnight I'm in Sedona and I have nothing. I have, I got this car and I wasn't grateful for it at all. I was so embarrassed to drive this car that I used to park it like a block away from meeting people for lunch. I never wanted my employer to see it. Oh, the other thing is that I was going to open an art gallery there, and or go back into my interior design skills. And when I arrived in Sedona, I found out that there were galleries closing. This was during the economic crunch that happened about 7 years ago, and interior designers had lost their businesses. So I realized none of my plans went as I thought. So I started working in an art gallery for $11 an hour, and I was mortified. And then I'm driving this 1977 Toyota car, and I didn't recognize my life anymore. And this is where I was really brought to my knees, and it was very humbling. And I started appreciating every little thing, because at that time I couldn't even afford a nice bar of soap. And I was used to always having everything organic, like really nice things, organic body products, the whole works. So I remember just being in this condo that was empty. I had no furniture in it because I hadn't yet brought my furniture from Vancouver. And I had a little altar where I meditated, and I had to start, from the very beginning. And it was really, really tough. And what I experienced in Sedona was like 3 deaths of my ego. So what I wanted to share with you regarding these universal laws is that, to use myself as an example, is that there was a real struggle going on within me, with my ego, a real struggle. And the way that I operated in the past, that push, you're going to make it happen, did not work in Sedona, Arizona, because there's a vortex there. So everybody there, as well as other towns that have a spiritual community, they learn to surrender and to live in the flow. And that when you let go of control, you stop exerting, imposing your will, that things will start to flow, and the law of the universe just starts to shower you. And at that time, I didn't understand the universal laws. So I was still trying to operate in my old way. And what I didn't understand is that the earth was going through, I knew the earth was going through a tremendous transition. But what I didn't understand is that there was all the old paradigms, the old constructs, all the, they were all being dismantled. And this was happening to all of humanity. Old paradigms, old behaviors, things that weren't serving for people in their highest were being completely dismantled. And people were clearing. So I started to embark on this whole process, and I was absolutely miserable. And when I started working at the gallery, I thought, oh my gosh, what's happened to me? I'm working for $11 an hour. And this beautiful painting came from that gallery. And the gallery, I was so guided, I was so led to this gallery because it's the Andrea Smith Gallery in Sedona, Arizona. It was a gallery that's specialized in spiritual items, sacred pieces. So they had these gorgeous Buddhas from all over the world, from Bali, from Thailand, from Hong Kong, from Burma, the most beautiful hand-carved Buddhas, and Ganeshas and Kuan Yins. And the 2 artists were mom and son. Andrea, she's the world peace artist, and her son, and this is her son's painting, Matthew Smith. And the whole gallery was filled with these incredible paintings that were so spiritual, and all the Buddhas had the energy from people in these Asian countries, hand carving them and putting all their love and attention into them. So what I'm trying to say is this gallery had so much energy, so much chi. And there was no accident that I began working there. Although at the time I thought, what am I doing with my life? This is insane. And And my life just changed so abruptly overnight. Like I said, from having, always, dining in the nicest restaurants and just, having all the comforts to all of a sudden what seemed to me was like just quite grueling, although it wasn't. But within 3 months, like I said, it was a very, very humbling experience. And I went through a real death of my ego. Everybody was so happy there, and they were so relaxed and so simple and in a lot of ways, just enjoying the abundance that the universe can offer us through the most simple pleasures, like good food and good water, And I started appreciating things on a much deeper level. I mean, I've always been all about Mother Earth. I'm Mother Earth embodied. I love Mother Earth so much. And I was always eating organic foods, but I started appreciating things on a level I had never experienced. And I started becoming so grateful for every little thing. Like I said, at that time, I couldn't even afford a really nice bar of soap, And so whenever I would get something, I would feel so incredibly grateful for it. And I continued my spiritual practice. And I started having a lot of very deep, experiencing deep guidance about my path, and that this was supposed to be happening to me, that my soul called this experience forward because I needed to expand in my consciousness. My soul needed to expand. And the way that I was operating in Vancouver, with my own businesses, I was kind of reaching a ceiling and not expanding enough. So it was no accident that I ended up in such a sacred spot with vortexes. And within 3 months, a hands-on healing ability began. And at first I didn't know what was going on. When I was very young, I used to pray to let me be of service, but I never would have imagined being used as a vessel for hands-on healing. So my hands would get hot, and I would receive all this energy through my crown, and tears would start coming out of my eyes. Just if I'm talking to a client, about a painting, and they would mention that their neck hurt or that they just lost their mom or something, and then all this, the minute I felt compassion, all this energy would start coming through me. So what ended up happening is, and I'll revert to the laws of the universe. So what ended up happening is I, for 4 years there, did a lot of hands-on healing, and I never charged anybody for, for that service. I was just being of service. And I remember that now the laws of the universe made everything work for the owners of the gallery, for myself with my commissions, and for the client that received the healing. So every time I did some kind of service work for people, with running the energy, they would inevitably always buy a painting. It could be a $1,000 painting, it could be a $3,000 painting, because they were so moved, and they would want something sacred to remind them of their experience. And so it was a win-win for everybody. The gallery was taken care of. They were able to always take care of all their expenses. I was taken care of because I would receive the commission in my check and be able to meet all my expenses. And the client was taken care of and served in a beautiful way for their spiritual awakening. So this is the way the laws of the universe work. At that time, I didn't understand that I was tapping into one of the laws, and that's the law of when you give, and you give with freedom and with just giving to just be of service with your heart and just freely, that you receive this, the gift back tenfold. And what I started noticing happening there over the course of 4 years was, I could go maybe not having a sale for a long time, and then all of a sudden, I'd make a $40,000 sale. So I could see how the law of the universe was working. And I used to refer to it as being an energy bank. So I would say that, I'm just putting energy into the energy bank, because a lot of times salespeople would get frustrated. And especially me, I was used to having my own businesses, so I could have really chose to have a bad attitude about how my life had changed, but when the hands-on healing got activated, I just felt incredibly grateful to be used of service in that way. So sometimes I would go without a sale, and then all of a sudden I'd have a big sale, and it was always in time for my rent. So I was always taken care of. Little by little, I became more and more comfortable with my car, and I just had like I said, several deaths of my ego, and where I started appreciating my car. And I would, detail this old 77 Toyota, and I would hand wash it, and I would talk to it, and I named it my Good Karma car. And we became best friends. And so it was a really transformative experience for me. And I didn't really understand at that time that I was using these laws of the universe. I'd like to talk a little bit just a little bit about these laws. I'm going to be referring to my notes every now and then. The universal laws assist humanity to move gracefully through turmoil. And the goal is to understand the laws of the universe, how they work, and to master them. They've worked together since the beginning of time. And like I said, we weren't ready for these universal laws lifetimes ago because things were too dense and our consciousness was not high enough to be able to integrate the meaning and the responsibility. So with the spiritual awakening on Earth, many souls are now ready to grow. So they're understanding, they're hearing about these laws of the universe, and many are mastering them. So truths are being revealed. And all these universal laws stem from originally from the mysteries, the mysteries in Egypt, the mysteries in Greece, in Atlantis. All these mysteries were taught, so long ago, and that's where they derive from. And now they can be revealed to the general public, which is, it's a very exciting time on the planet. And this information is being revealed to all of us so that we can anchor in the new age, the new golden age. That is happening right now on this planet as we speak. It's unfolding, and it's a very exciting time. So a lot of people are going through a lot of density. They're having to clear their old patterns that don't work for them anymore, dismantling their old belief systems. And as they clear that, they open up the receptivity to reach deeper levels of spiritual understanding, to expand as a soul. So there's two things happening right now. People are experiencing density and struggle, and simultaneously people are experiencing awakenings and freedom. A lot of how we traverse with these universal laws depends on what form of action we take. So sometimes we go through these lessons and they're very harsh, like the lessons I went through. I also wasn't used to intense heat, like 105 degrees. I was used to Vancouver, it's like the weather's so mild there. And my good old Toyota didn't have air conditioning. So it was a real, I was really getting hit hard, okay? And, but I knew enough, because I was a meditator, I knew that if I kept focusing on the negative, that it was going to just exacerbate. And actually that is what happened. I kind of lost control, and I stopped remembering that our thoughts are so powerful. And what we say is so powerful. And I mean, I still have to work on it, because sometimes I just become unconscious, and I'll start worrying, and then I'll realize, oh my gosh, I'm making this situation so much worse. So at that time, I was, a little miserable in the beginning. And so I was talking about all the things that were going wrong. Well, I lived in a vortex. So the more I talked about, my car wasn't right, I didn't have furniture, I was getting paid $11 an hour, the more that I was creating hardships in my life, the more difficult my life became. And I didn't make the connection right away, but because I was getting so beaten up, I soon made the connection, and I started becoming conscious of what I was thinking. And we always have a choice, we have a choice. The masters call it right thinking, right action. So we have a choice if we want to do the right thing, or how Norma Milanovic puts it in her book, she says that right action advances spirit, and wrong action goes against spirit. Now, you know, if you want to really get deeply into it, there is really no such thing as wrong. You know, all choices are valuable, but some choices that we make will lead us, you know, closer to spirit, advances spirit, and other choices we make may bring more density into our lives. So this is where we have the opportunity to master ourselves while things are happening that might be very, very challenging, very difficult for us. We do have a choice in how we think about those things that are happening. We have a choice in how we speak about it, how we relay it to people. And I know this one real well because I did it the wrong way, and things just kept perpetuating for me until I understood this law, this universal law. Just going to take a moment. And just to let you know, this webcast is going to be available. Of course, I would imagine that you have paper and a pen to take notes. But at the end, I will be doing a little recap of the key points that will assist you in enacting this universal law of giving and receiving tenfold. But you will also have the webcast available. So if you want to review it, you can. I'm just going to take a look at my notes for a minute. So everybody, I think, understands that there's a stream of high energies coming onto the planet at this time like never before, like absolutely never before. It's an unprecedented time, and these high streams of energy are dismantling and unearthing all the denser energy. So greed, self-centeredness, confusion, lies, all the behaviors that are birthed from very dense energy are all being completely dismantled now on Earth as the higher energies are streaming in. You know, people, the self-serving principles, there's a lot of self-serving principles are all starting to crumble. It's no longer working. And it's exactly like when I went to Sedona, my way wasn't working anymore. Pardon me. So I had to learn that just through trial and error, that my wanting to push and to, my wanting to push and to exert my own will, which is what I was used to doing, because that was the model that I was trained in to be successful in the corporate world. And I worked at Fortune 500 companies. It was all about strategizing and, you know, getting that edge and pushing ahead. And there was a lot of fear behind that way of thinking too. Like, I mean, if we're doing that, we have absolutely no faith that there's anything higher than us that's going to take care of us. We're really kind of living out of a void, you know, just on our very own, thinking that it's just all up to us to take care of ourselves. We forget that there is an entire universe full of these extraordinary light beings and our creator. I'm going to take my webcam for a moment. I'm just going to show you the good company that we're in. So there's some pictures of some masters. I don't know if you got to see Mother Mary. So these are my best friends in the world, and they travel with me wherever I go. And they're great pointers and reminders to me that I'm not alone, we're never alone, and that there is a bigger plan. There's a divine plan, and there are universal laws, and they supersede man's laws. And so at the time that I lived in Vancouver, you know, I already tapped in, and I knew I had faith, but I never tapped into the universal laws the way that I understand them now, and now I'm really in a program of mastery, of mastering them. So as you already know, I'm sure, because there's been a lot of documentaries, everything is energy. So everything is energy. Our thoughts are energy, our words are energy, our actions are energy, and energy goes in a circular pattern throughout the universe. Like all the planets, they rotate in a circular pattern. Everything moves in a circular fashion. The electrons in our tissues, our atoms, they move in a circular fashion. So energy moves circular. So I'd like to go now into explaining a law just as a foundation before we get into the other law, the law of cause and effect. And a lot of you know this is karma. So with the law of cause and effect, that's a circular, it's in keeping with the universal flow. So there's an ecosystem connected, and everything that we think, everything that we speak, everything that we do goes in a circular motion and comes back to us. So whatever you resist, if you're really, really resisting something, it's going to persist. It's just going to keep coming back. Do you remember that movie Groundhog Day? Where, you know, it just kept happening over and over and over and over until he got it right. So it's kind of like that. So just remember that this is just, you know, this is the way that energy works. It just goes in a circular fashion. And also in our tissues, everything's circular. So the law of cause and effect is circular like that, in this circular cycle. A lot of us, it's part of being human, and we came here to experience being human. We need to exercise more self-care and more compassion for ourselves, because sometimes our expectations are so unrealistic of how we're supposed to be. If we were supposed to be perfect, we never would have come down to this earth. We would have stayed up there. So we're here to experience density and to experience what it is to be human, what it is to take 2 steps back and 1 step forward, and to learn and to grow and to make a lot of mistakes and to embody our mastery. That's what we're really here for. So what will happen with this universal law of cause and effect is often our mind, our attention, and our awareness will be on the past. You know, things that we did in the past that we can't change. Maybe we lost a loved one. We experienced maybe regrets, or, you know, we lost a job, or we could have done something better, maybe how we communicated with someone. So a lot of times our attention and our awareness will go to the past. Well, that means that our energy is getting dispersed to the past, or we'll go to the future. That's very common, especially, you know, in the secular arena. Always trying to strategize, concerned about the future, about our retirement, about how we're going to take care of our kids. There's just so much more. How we're going to get to that point where we want to be self-employed or to be able to have our dream job. So a lot of our energy and our attention will go to the future. And so again, our energy is dispersed. So let's say we've got, you know, like 100% energy, and let's say that maybe 25% goes to the past, and let's say maybe 30% goes to the future. So so that leaves 45% here. And all we really have, as you know, you've heard this a million times, is this present moment. Like that book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. All we have is this moment right now, right here. This is where all our power lies, is in this moment. So by training ourselves to focus on the moment and on the present, we can start to master this universal law of cause and effect. So I have some notes up here, so you'll see me looking up, just some pointers. So I mentioned earlier that, you know, really everything in life is about choices. When we came here to experience the duality, this experience of being human, we're faced with so many choices as human beings. And in those choices, there are consequences, right? There are outcomes. consequences sounds a little bit like we did something wrong. So there are outcomes for those choices. And, you know, from what I understand, there are no wrong choices. I mean, everything we do in life holds value and supports us in learning and teaching us. So sometimes, you know, we'll make a choice, like I said earlier, that will support us, like with being in the flow and you know, advances spirit. And then other times we may make a choice that doesn't advance us with spirit. It actually might go against spirit, you know. Like, I'll give an example, like addictions. So when we make choices to become addicted to alcohol or to drugs, then we're making a choice that's not going to advance us towards spirit, but it's going to actually work against spirit, because that's, I don't think I need to explain why. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So by understanding how these choices mold us or shape us, you know, we start to become more conscious about our choices. Will this lead us closer to spirit, or will this take us away from spirit? Because it's in the flow is when we experience spirit, right? We have the opportunity to learn to start to master our own emotional and mental bodies. Mastering emotional and mental body, what does that mean? Well, mastering our emotions. So it's part of the human experience to get angry or to experience a resentment, or somebody said something to you and it hurt your feelings, and now you're harboring a resentment. So to master our emotional and mental body would mean to really observe our thoughts, to notice where our thoughts are cycling over and over and over, like repetitious thinking that isn't really supporting us or serving us in our highest, or where we're feeling harboring, like I said, harboring a resentment, or we actually even act it out by expressing that to someone, right? So there's nothing wrong with us having these emotions or experience within ourselves, and of course, you know, just asking for assistance and being able to learn what we need to learn in this lesson, in this experience. With every experience with people, with struggle, there's always a gift there if we're willing to humble ourselves, if we're willing to just take a time out, just a moment, to take a look at it and observe it, take a step back, take an aerial view of the situation. There's always a gift in that struggle that's available to us. But, you know, more often than not, when I was younger, I would just react. I was just a reacting machine. And when our thoughts run so random and you're just reacting to circumstances, that is the most powerful way to move away from this universal law of giving and receiving tenfold. The universal law of giving and receiving tenfold requires a certain amount of direction and focus. So that's why I'm laying down the foundation first. So part of the direction and focus that's needed is to master your emotional and your mental bodies. Like I said, I just used to be a reactive machine. I did not even have this understanding how powerful, you know, mastering your emotions and your mental bodies are. And when I moved to Sedona, that's when I started to understand, you know, how my emotions and my upset was exacerbating, and it was just blossoming, and more hardships were coming up, and more and difficult scenarios with personalities and people, you know, until I realized I'm living in a vortex. I really got to get a handle on this. And when you go through your experiences, if you always ask, you know, your guides, ask all the beautiful beings of light that are available to us. They often say that they're underemployed. They want us to call on them they want to assist us, but they can't act against our free will. So free will is another universal law. They can't come in and assist us against our free will. I'm sure you've heard of this. So we have to be very intentional in directing them to assist us. So we have to ask them, you know, help me to get this. Help me to see what I cannot see. Like if you're really upset with someone, or you're struggling with a situation, or you can't seem to get out of, the poverty consciousness, lack consciousness. You can just ask all your guides, all the angels, all the archangels, all the ascended masters, to please start to work with you and to start to teach you. And they'll bring the right people to you. They'll bring the right books to you. And that's what happened for me. In Vancouver, I was led to Yogananda, and I went into very high energy frequencies. So my lower dense frequencies had to be cleared because my soul was reaching for the higher frequencies. So as you start to bring your awareness and your attention to your thinking, to your speaking, to your actions, you'll start to, and you start to ask for assistance with understanding more and to be able to live a freer life, to not be so, and this may not be you. I mean, you may not be experiencing a lot of density. Most people I know on this planet right now are, and including me. The only difference is I've been really learning a lot of tools in the last few years, so I'm able to traverse through these energy fields a little bit more masterfully. And when I fall, which is often, I have a beautiful spiritual team behind me. All my guides, the archangels, the ascended masters. But not only that, but I also have extraordinary people that I associate with that are reaching for that higher consciousness that I can talk to, that can also support me energetically. And so that's a very important thing also, to surround yourself with associations that support you in trying to understand these universal laws and to master, right thinking, right action, to bring in higher frequencies, the higher streams of energy that are being anchored into this planet right now through the new golden era. So I forgot where I was, but it's okay, I'll keep going. So when we master our emotional and our mental bodies, we start to become aware that we can't harbor resentments. We can, but we're going to really experience that, the cause and effect, that law of the universe, that what you think, every thought, your action is going to come back to you, right? And I need to move this for a second to see my notes. So yeah, so the lessons that we call forth our own lessons because we want to evolve as souls. We're actually calling them forth. They're not happening, nothing happens randomly. That's another thing that I understand from understanding the laws of the universe, that nothing happens randomly in the universe. It's always cause and effect. So as we call forth lessons and teachings to be able to expand as souls, our lessons might be to learn unconditional love. Our lessons might be, I have to look at my notes, to overcome pride, to lessen our ego, or to learn how to balance our ego. Ego is a very important thing. I've had this conversation recently with some people. Of course, our Creator made us with ego. It's important to have ego, or else we wouldn't be alive. We would just walk out in front of a moving truck. But what's necessary with our ego is a balancing of the ego, bringing our heart into the ego, balancing it. So that's what we're striving for, a balance of the ego. So the lesson might be to surrender our ego and overcoming pride. And when we surrender our ego, we surrender to the will of spirit. And that's when the magic starts to happen. It really becomes extraordinary. I mean, sometimes I talk to my team, other friends that are part of, like, we do world service work, for the planet, and we just go, my gosh, our life is absolutely magical. Like, using these universal laws and just tapping into the higher streams of energy. Who would have known that my life could be so much fun? I had no clue, and sometimes I can hardly believe how magical my life is and how beautiful. And what's even more mind-blowing is how powerfully these ascended masters and archangels and our God-sanctioned guides work with us. It's just amazing how they work with us. There are master presences that have different rays, and the different rays hold different frequencies for different jobs on the planet. And once you start to understand these different rays and their different attributes, you can start working with these rays. And you can actually like use the violet ray to clear yourself from dense energy. You can use Archangel Michael's Sacred Fire of Love, the blue flame, to purify your fields. And it goes on and on and on. It's quite extraordinary. So we call forth these lessons, and through cause and effect, we are calling forth these lessons. And although they're very challenging and difficult, it's actually assisting us in expanding as souls. I'm just going to step up to flip my notes for a second. The strength of the will drives momentum, okay, in the law of cause and effect. So if we have, like, say, a spiritual endeavor, let's say we want to do some volunteer work, or we're going to do a drive for like the food bank at Christmas time, or a drive right now that's happening where I am right now in Nelson, British Columbia, is to help the homeless on the streets. So you can exert your will and funnel it in a very constructive activity that will better the planet, right? Or you can also, exert your will in a destructive way. So the will is very, very powerful. And again, it's, everything is about choices. So if you understand how powerful the will is, and you start to, again, bring your attention and your awareness, bring your attention, awareness, your thoughts to how you're operating with your will. This is an integral part of the laws of the universe in cause and effect, okay? When we're aligned with our heart and our mind, we align our heart to our mind. That's when the magic happens. When you align your heart to your mind, you let go of all the mental chatter, the worrying. When you bring your heart into it, it's like taking a deep breath and just releasing, surrendering, because your heart is everything. We have our I am presence, which is the divine director of all of our activities, and that's our higher self, our I am presence. I'm sure you've heard of that. Sorry, I just had to make sure that my webcast person isn't giving me a little message about somebody asking a question. So now I lost my thought. Yeah, when we align our heart with our mind, there's a lot of freedom in that, because what will diminish is us wanting to push or exert our will in a way that's not natural, in a way that doesn't flow with the universe, okay? Because the universe is all about flow. And I'm sure that all of you have had an example, or you can reflect on a time when you were in the flow, when everything just fell into place, everything went right. That's when you're living in the flow. And then we have examples when we're not in the flow, when it's just it seems like we wake up on the wrong side of the bed and everything just seems to go wrong that day. So when you get into mastery, you can actually turn those kind of days around. If you just stop, take a breath, take a step back, become the eagle, get an aerial view of your situation, assess. And usually there's always some kind of push happening, push, shove, and overexertion of your will that's causing a day to just be off like that. So you actually have the ability to just stop for a moment and take a look and assess, reassess, take a breath, and realign yourself, your mind with your heart. The reason I'm going over this is because it's a very important part. It's actually critical and integral parts to us being able to master the laws of the universe. So again, right now we're talking about the universal law called cause and effect. So again, everything goes in circular fashion, in cycles, And our thoughts, our words, our actions, everything we speak will come back to us. And, right now as we speak, I can see an area in my life where I'm really not exercising my mastery. I have an area in my life right now that I'm concerned about, that I'm exerting my thoughts, my speaking, in a way that's going to come back to me and just bring back more worry. So again, this is what it is to be human. We're not perfect. It's part of being human. But we do want to strive to continually clear the worry, clear the regret, the sorrow, and be able to get into higher frequencies so that we can really tap into this freedom, this new golden age, which is so amazing. Where the younger generation, they've tapped in, they get it. They're just living in the flow. I mean, they're like, they don't worry. It's just really beautiful to watch them, and I love being around them. I'm in Nelson, British Columbia right now, and there's just such extraordinary people here that have mastered living in the flow. And again, there's no accident that I'm in this town, because this is something that I have to continually learn. And I've come a long way with wanting to make it happen, So somebody asked me once regarding work. They said, well, how do you know if your ego is directing what you're doing? And I had to think about that, and I said, it came to me from above, and I said, you'll know when your ego's directing, because there'll be a push. You're pushing too much. You're pushing for the outcome. And when you're in the flow, you get out of the way. You get completely out of the way. And this is the key, okay? And you might want to write this down. This is a real critical point. You can have, and this is a universal law that came from above. You can have your intentions, like I had this intention to do this webinar, okay? You can set your intention with the state of allowing. So you set your intention with the state of allowing. So it means you set your intention. I did everything that I was supposed to do to have this webinar happen. Beautiful Kamara did everything for me. And we both worked together. And I really want to thank her very much. She's such a lovely soul. And we just met recently, and it was such a beautiful experience, a real, like a revisiting from the past, if you know what I mean. And so, and this is an example of the law of giving and receiving tenfold. I mean, she offered to do this for me just out of the goodness of her heart. She understands that law of the universe. And in some way, I guess I'm receiving, so it's just beautiful the way it happens. But I set the intention to have this webinar, and then I let go. I got out of the way. So you set your intention, and then you remove it's not like you're removing everything. Like, of course I did certain things, like I, emailed people, but there wasn't this like real, like, this real push, like forcing it to happen, exerting power over it, okay? So, that's the old paradigm. That's the old way that no longer serves you. It no longer serves humanity. That's actually the way that the whole political system runs, all the governments. There's oppression involved, there's suppression involved, there's a complete imbalance of the divine feminine and the divine male. It's mostly, the dominance, which is a more male energy, it's more yang as opposed to yin. And there's such an imbalance. And these old constructs are being dissolved to make way for the new golden era. So you can set the intention with the state of allowing for whatever you want in life. And so this is to support you with this universal law of cause and effect, so that you can start to work your mastery around this universal law. And again, I'm just laying this foundation down before we get into the other law. I'm sure you all know that we create our own reality. Now, sometimes that's kind of hard to swallow when things aren't going well. And for me, yeah, I mean, when things don't go well, I know that I've created it. When I have, the thing that I'm very sensitive about is when there's disagreements with people, or there's some kind of a discord, an imbalance, like with a friend, that I'm very sensitive, so that'll really affect me. And then I'll take a look and go, well, somehow I'm creating this. I'm creating this reality. I'm bringing this into my life. There's something there to understand, wanting me to learn, wanting me to have a breakthrough in. So everything that we create, okay, everything, we're creating our own reality. That's what I'm trying to say. Everything that's existing in our lives, we have created. And this isn't for us to now, one of the most important things with the universal laws is to exercise self-love. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. But this is also, you might want to jot that down. Self-love is absolutely critical. It's an integral part of being able to master the laws of the universe. Because if we're being self-critical, if we're downgrading our own energy, having these really high expectations of ourselves, and then we don't meet them, and then we're really disappointed in ourselves, those are denser frequencies. So they're going to keep us in a denser frequency. And of course, what we want is to get into the higher frequencies. So self-love is so important, because if you're in those denser frequencies, you're actually creating a block. This is another critical part you can write down, that control blocks receptivity. One of my teachers from Vancouver, an extraordinarily beautiful soul and very, very bright woman, that was one of the things she taught me like 15 years ago, that control blocks receptivity. So sometimes when I'm doing coaching for people that are in business, they're very well trained in the linear and how to strategize and how to get to their goals and projections, but often they don't understand how the laws of the universe work, and that when you exert control, that it literally will block their receptivity. So when I worked in the gallery, I would really have an intention to sell some artwork, some beautiful artwork, and to be of service. Number one was to be of service, to be able to contribute into somebody's life in a way that would benefit them or assist them with their awakening. And that in that act, that I would also sell a painting or a sculpture so that it supports me financially. And so I would set the intention very powerfully, and then I would just, with the state of allowing, so that I got out of the way. When you get out of the way, that's when the flow can happen. So even right now, as I'm giving this webinar, I have some notes here, I have some notes here, but I knew that I have to get out of the way to create the receptivity, to create the receptive space for the flow to come through, for the universe to express itself through me to you. So that's a really important part of mastering the laws of the universe. Positive thoughts, attitudes, words, actions are needed all times to keep energy flowing. So, we're gonna traverse, we're gonna go up and down, but as we embody more and more mastery, it's really just so much fun now in my life, because I might get bummed out for not even an hour, and I don't want to be too overly eager to say that, because the minute you do, that's when a test will come from the universe. So I was just thinking in terms of this week, okay, this week, I can remember a few times feeling a little disappointed, but I don't think it lasted for more than an hour, because I would start using my mastery right away. I would start talking to my whole family upstairs, and I would ask them to please, show me the higher way. Let me connect into the higher streams of energy. Let me be in the flow. Sometimes we want something so badly, and really, if it's not for our highest, it's not going to serve us. So the sooner we find out, the better. and then the right things will come to us. So it's about having faith. You might want to write that one down too. Faith is integral. It's a key part to working with the laws of the universe. There are times that, like I just have to have sheer faith. All of us go through that, where we literally don't know. We have to live in uncertainty. We don't know with each step we take what's going to happen in our lives. And in those moments when we have to surrender into it, because if we freeze up with fear, we block it. We block the receptivity. And it's during those times that we need the help the most. So during those times, it's really difficult to do, but once you learn it, it becomes easier and easier. During the hardest times of your life, that's when you need to let go the most. And you need to just surrender into the flow and let go. I always call it let go and let God. Let go and just trust the universe. And this is where your faith comes in. So exercising your faith, you'll just notice magic. You'll notice miracles. I've had so many true miracles happen in my life. True miracles where I really was living in uncertainty. I just didn't know what my next step was. Like I said in Sedona, I didn't know what was going to happen to me after I had this particular lifestyle in Vancouver, and I went from what I thought was everything to nothing. But it was actually the opposite. I went from nothing to everything because I learned to let go. I learned to get out of my own way. I learned to surrender, exerting my own will and exercising my power and what I thought was power. And I learned to surrender all that and to learn a better way, a much more effective way, and that's working with not man's laws, but the laws of the universe. So sometimes when you're actually in a situation because of the law of cause and effect that's come back to you now, and there's nothing you can do about it, you're having a hard time. What I recommend doing, and of course what I've learned from my teachers and from the masters, is don't exert your will at that time. Surrender into what's happening. Exercise your faith that you know that this is happening for you, not to you. There's a reason it's happening to teach you something that you need to learn. So maybe write down for you, not to you. So if you can just surrender and know that there's something very valuable you're going to learn that's going to just propel you, catapult you into those higher frequencies, into mastery, and just have that faith and just go with it, you will make your hardship so much easier, so much easier. My friends that are, in this mastery program, learning about these laws of the universe, they're all exercising this, and it's very exciting to learn this, to learn these tools, because you can make your life a lot easier when you are going through dense times. And most of us are right now on the planet. I'm actually experiencing what would be considered a very dense time right now in my life. And what most people would be totally freaking out about. And I'm just amazed at how I'm in the flow, how these wonderful things keep happening to me, doors keep opening, opportunities, wonderful people like Kamara, offering to do a webcast for me, people asking me to do private intensives for them. It's a magical time in my life, and I right now don't know where I'm going to live. There's a lot of unknowns for me that would normally in the past have had me really quite upset, but I'm really leaning into my faith and trusting the laws of the universe, trusting the flow, that all my answers will be revealed to me. So, the goal is to master balance and truth. Balance and truth. To master balance, truth, integrity, in all our choices, our decision making. So I have to tell you something kind of funny right now. speaking of how we have to let go of control and just go with the flow, I was just referring to all the notes that were for the end of my seminar. So there's a perfect example, okay? Okay, let's see where we are. Doing pretty good, actually. Okay, yeah, that's great, okay. Just want to make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, so yeah, this is important. Another little tidbit that master teacher in Vancouver taught me. The universe, all the hierarchy, they've said that whenever you take a position, like a strong position in something, you block receptivity. So maybe make a little note of this also. Avoid extreme positions, like taking these strong stands. Try to master being more neutral about things. When you go to the extreme and you're positional, I call it positionality, that will create a block instantly, completely block you. Trying to stay centered and more balanced creates the flow in your life, creates the flow, and the flow creates the magic. And that's when the magic happens. So we know that these laws are all guidelines that were created for us. I mean, they're not created just for us. They're how the whole universe exists. You know, how all the planets rotate. I mean, the universal laws are profound. The other side is a million times more organized than what we think organization is here on Earth. You know, like we have the organization of all the government, the politics, you know, and it's somewhat organized, but the way that the whole universe runs on universal laws and the way it's organized, like from, you know, all the different arenas of angels and masters, ascended masters and archangels, and all their different positions and jobs that they have. And I mean, and how they work with all the kingdoms, the animal kingdom, the mineral kingdom, the nature kingdom, the elemental kingdom, is absolutely profound. It's profound. And so these laws are guidelines to help us to evolve. Again, self-love, it always helps for the flow of the universe. Self-love it's so important. You have no idea. I mean, I always thought I was good at self-love. I grew up in an era where, you know, I lived in LA for 20 years and did like all this therapy when I was younger. And it was all about self-parenting, self-love. So I learned all that. That's when Bradshaw was really big. And I'm grateful for all that I learned, you know. But even with all that, the way that I've understood what self-love to be is today and self-parenting is on a whole other level through the masters, through experiencing divinity, the love of my creator expressing through me. I started to understand that I could not exert compassion and love for others until I loved myself fully. And I forgave myself for all the things I thought I did wrong, all the expectations, self-expectations I imposed on myself that I did not meet. The more I started to really embody self-compassion and self-love and forgiveness, the more I was free to really embody that for others. And when I did that on that very deep core level, which we're all continuously will do till the day we die, I mean, we can continue to master this self-love and self-caring and self-compassion and forgiveness. The more that I was able to do this, the more I was able to really connect in with spirit and to feel the love of the universe flowing through me and expressing through me to others. And that's where world peace starts, everybody. It starts here. We have to make peace with ourselves first. When we make peace with ourselves, then we can start making, you know, we can extend it out to world peace. World peace begins with one person, ourselves. If everybody would exercise this self-love, self-forgiveness, self-compassion, and master this love for ourselves, and then expressing that to others, that's how peace will embody on this planet. So now that we really understand the law of cause and effect, let me just take a look at my time, because at one point we will take a little break, just for 10 minutes. I'm wondering if this is a good time. I think this might be I think I'll just keep going. So now that we understand the law of cause and effect, okay, that it goes in circular cycles, circular fashion, and that our thoughts affect everything coming back to us, our actions affect everything, that we do have choices. We have choices to make decisions that will lead us more into the flow, closer to spirit, or choices that will take us away from that. And now that we're starting to understand that, we can move into the law of compensation. Yay! So the law of compensation is the law of cause and effect as applied to your blessings. So we have the law of cause and effect, then we have the law of compensation. But the law of compensation is the law of cause and effect applied to your blessings, okay? So that are bestowed upon us. So the law of cause and effect as applied to blessings that are bestowed upon us. The law of cause and effect deals with events that happen in your life, okay? That's the difference. The law of compensation deals with, I'm going to move this for a minute, deals with material and spiritual gains that we receive in life, okay? So it's about material and spiritual gains. I'm going to have to flip my page. So I know some of these principles you have heard of before. The law of compensation, you've heard that for everything given, that there shall be a return. So there's actually a scripture that's, as you give, so you shall receive. So this is something that I think we're all familiar with. I'd like to share something else with you that wonderful teacher in Vancouver shared with me from the masters, the ascended masters, and that is that giving, when we give, giving is like breathing. So when we breathe, we have the in-breath, we have the out-breath. So when we give, it's a universal law, we receive. So it's one action, okay? It's one action, giving and receiving, okay? So as we receive, it's likened to breathing in. We receive, we breathe in, we take it in. And as we give, we exhale. So we receive, breathe in, we give, exhale. Now, it's supposed to work just like that. There should not be an imbalance with all giving, because that causes an imbalance in your energy system in your body. As we give, we also receive. So this is in accordance to the universal law. Let's talk about giving, because as we give, we receive. And there are a lot of people that don't know about this, I'll say it's the universal law of compensation, but it's like a little caveat that when you give, you receive tenfold. Now, I had just learned that recently, about 2 years ago. I did not know that. I realized that I was doing that unconsciously in my life, a lot throughout my life. I was always a very big giver. I used to love to make things for people, and all the corporate jobs I had. I mean, I would stay up all night long hand painting T-shirts for people, and I was always giving. Love to give flowers to people. I love to give cards, People would always say to me, oh, of course, like things just land on your lap all the time, and well, now I understand there was no accident, nothing just happens randomly in this universe. I was exercising that law of the universe, although I wasn't aware of it at the time. And then I also experienced for years where my giving was so unbalanced that I totally blocked any receptivity because there wasn't a balance there. I just kept giving and giving and giving. When you give, you have to check out your motives when you give. And this is another thing I'd love for you to write down, jot down. This is another critical part of this law of the universe. When you give, check out your motives, because if you're giving because of lack of love that you have, and that's how I used to give. I wanted to receive love, okay, when I was younger. Like I was, well, I did that for many, many years, like from my teens through my 20s, maybe my early 30s. So I wasn't aware because, I was a loving, giving person. I would give. And what I was really wanting was I wanted some kind of recognition. I wanted to feel love, So often when you give something to someone, you can get this little rush, and say, thank you. And then you have a good feeling, So it took me a while to learn that I was attached to that little rush, where, oh, I feel love. People love me. People think I'm a good person, And so there was an imbalance with giving. And with that imbalance, I created a whole block. And I had an intuitive once say that she likened it to like she could actually look at the energy and she saw these cement walls go up. The minute I had fear about what was going to happen in my future, she saw these cement walls go up. So it's very powerful energy how it works. So when you give, okay, make sure that you're giving freely, that there's nothing attached, that you're not trying to receive love or you want people to think you're a great person because you just gave or you just donated. So give freely, okay? To master this law of compensation, we have to break poverty consciousness and lack consciousness. A lot of people are deeply embedded and entrenched in lack consciousness, poverty consciousness. It most often comes from the way they were raised, their parents. I mean, I know for me that was certainly true. Or it can come from a past life and you carried it into this lifetime where you had maybe a lifetime of poverty and lack. There was a lot of confusion, in past lives and also in certain spiritual practices that where, having a life of poverty makes you more highly spiritual. Well, this is going to be further from the truth. Again, it's about balance. It's about balance. So in order for us to master this law, this universal law of giving and receiving tenfold, we absolutely have to break this relationship to poverty consciousness and lack consciousness. So how do we do this? Okay, I'm going to say some simple things, okay? Little things that actually are very big, okay? So when you go get a coffee or you go get a tea, it costs like $2.50 or $3, and you have a choice. You can leave a tip or not, even if it's, your last $10, I'm going to use that as an example, okay? The law of compensation, you have to constantly be giving. You can't just receive, you give. So tipping service people is part of that whole web. It's part of that whole web. The whole web of cause and effect, the law of compensation. So the more you give freely, like just know that there's more where that came from, and that's up there. All the flow of abundance, the monetary comes from above. You know, it's an illusion that it really comes from our jobs or how hard we work. I used to think that I had to work so hard for my money, and I worked so hard my whole life. I was such a workaholic. I'm a Virgo. I had my businesses. I mean, I worked so hard. And, you know, the sad part is that was a lie. It wasn't true at all. And I learned that when I went through my initiation in Sedona, that it's actually not the truth. You know, that's a lie that we were fed. It's a lie that many people believe. It takes a lot of courage to find your way out of that construct, that belief system, that you have to work really hard, you know, to be able to take care of yourself. It's not about working hard. It's about working in the flow. It's about being in the flow in accordance with your own soul, with your own divine purpose, what you came here to experience. When you're in the flow, things just come naturally. You're taken care of. All your needs are met. And I'd like to talk about the word abundance. You know, abundance reflects on so many things. It reflects on the food we eat. To me, having abundance is having, you know, organic produce available to me that's really fresh. I like to eat it within 3 days from when it's cut from the farm. That's when it has the most vitamins and minerals. To me, that's abundance. To be able to have a garden, to be able to have beautiful friends that share your consciousness, that have your back, you know. To me, that's abundance. It's not just the monetary. It's being able to live in the flow, knowing that all your needs are met, having enriched relationships that are supportive, being able to experience your health, your vitality. This is all part of abundance, okay? So it's not just the monetary. Take a moment for me to just. So we're talking about breaking free from that lack consciousness, that poverty consciousness, and being able to tap into our abundance. So first we need to understand what abundance is. What is abundance to you? You know, you might want to make a little note on that to explore what does abundance mean to you? Maybe it means being out in nature more. Maybe it means being able to enjoy your family at the beach. What does abundance mean to you? Maybe it means being able to have wonderful friends, being able to have people over for dinner. I love to cook. I'm a real foodie. I love having gatherings and people. That is, for me, that would be a real sign of abundance, to be able to share that with people. So take a look at what abundance means to you. Now, how are we going to break this poverty consciousness and this lack consciousness, okay? First of all, it starts by taking a look at the areas where you pull back a little, where there's some constraint, where maybe there's a little bit of greed, a little bit of fear, where you hold back the energy. So what I'm trying to say is maybe where you're not being generous because you're afraid that you're not going to be taken care of. You're buying into that poverty consciousness. Many times in my life, you know, when I was a single mom in Los Angeles, you know, I'd have $10 to my name. And I thought I was teaching my daughter a good thing at the time because I was a young mom. And, you know, sometimes I would give my last dollar to people that I felt, you know, like people that were living on the streets. And I would share with my daughter, you know, we have a home, we have food in our refrigerator, and they have nothing, you know? So I was always kind of exercising this law of the universe. And I always knew that I was going to be taken care of no matter what. That must come from a past life because that was very strong in me when I came into this lifetime. I've always known that no matter what, God has my back. So that doesn't come naturally to everyone, but certainly there have been times in my life where I wanted to pull back a little, and I wanted to you know, where maybe I was really scared or worried to spend money that thinking I'm not being responsible. Am I being irresponsible? And then maybe I'd start to hold back the tips a little. And the minute I would realize I was doing that, I knew that I was blocking the abundance to come to me, because I was falling into that poverty consciousness, that lack consciousness. So one of the ways to break free from poverty consciousness is to take a look at your fears. Take a look at where you feel kind of tight in your life, like kind of tight, like, like a little tight. Maybe you're tight with your energy. Maybe you're tight with your time. Maybe you're not as generous with your time or your service work, or your maybe you're not really out there with people and contributing to people. There's all kinds of areas where we can unconsciously be stingy with our spirit, with our money, because money is energy, right? So usually, if we're going to be stingy with our spirit, it's gonna cross over and reflect on our money. I'm not trying to tell you to be irresponsible in your life, but I am sharing with you what I have learned firsthand from my own experience. That the minute you start to worry about that, or you start to pull back and you start to withhold, you're going to stop the energy from really flowing in your life, and you're going to stop this universal law of giving and receiving tenfold. So sometimes we just have to trust and have faith in the unknown, and just know that we're going to be taken care of, and put one foot in front of the other and just surrender into the flow. I've been living my life, especially recently, like this. I recently gave up a 3-bedroom townhome, and I have no idea where I'm going to live. Right now, I'm just staying with people through their graces. And it's really been magical for me. I'm meeting incredible people. I'm having all these new experiences. I met Kamara, and I've met all these new people that are just beautiful and that just want to contribute to me in my life. I mean, super magical. I'm not kidding you. And I feel so rich. I feel so rich. And I am rich. I'm so abundant. Or else I wouldn't be able to be sitting here talking to you the way I'm talking to, and having passion, feeling my passion, feeling my excitement, feeling my vitality for life, And when we do go into lack consciousness, poverty consciousness, it immediately cuts off our flow from our vitality, from our self-expression, from our joy. Any kind of fear is a tremendous block to our self-expression and our joy. So just taking a little break. I'm going to have a sip of water, okay? I'm also going to flip my page. So I want everybody to say this out loud. Repeat after me. In what way may I serve you? In what way may I serve you? This is something that we need to say, we need to practice, we need to do if we want this universal law of giving and receiving tenfold to take effect in our lives. We need to learn how to be more of service. Most of the people that I know that are very successful, and of course, success is, I want that word, subjectional. I can't say it. I knew I was going to mess it up. Success is subjective. And again, it's what is success to you? But the people that I notice that I feel are very successful, whether it be with money or just with the way they run their lives, they're just so living in the flow. I notice that there's a common link with all those people, and they do more for others. They're of service. They give of themselves. They're not stingy with their spirit, with their time. They're generous, and they're very successful in life, and all the wonderful things come to them because they're experiencing that law of the universe, the law of compensation. They're giving and they're receiving tenfold. Sometimes we'll give in one way and we'll receive in another. So that's how it happened for me when I worked in that gallery for 4 years. It wasn't always like that I would get a sale or it would come back monetarily. Sometimes, like I have a dear, dear friend who gave me the most extraordinary trip to Baja for 3 weeks, all expenses paid, and it was like where the presidents stay in Baja, Cabo San Lucas. And it was one of the most extraordinary experiences I've ever had in my life. And I was really tapping into miracles that summer in a big way because I had been associated with some light workers that do service work around the world. And my life was so magical. It still is, but this was one of the real high points in my life. When I arrived to that hotel, I mean, it was like presidential hotel, no kidding. It was more than a 5-star. And I had no idea. And I'm just going there, I'm going to paint for 3 weeks, paint paintings, right? And this was a complete dispensation from the universe that was handed to me through this beautiful soul, given to me as a gift. I arrived to the hotel. I have a very close relationship with Archangel Michael. I work very closely with him all the time. And when I arrived to the hotel, I walk into this palatial foyer, the entrance, where there's these palatial chandeliers, 12-foot ceilings, maybe even taller. And what is standing in the center of this foyer, this entrance, that is 3 times the size of my body? This huge Archangel Michael. Well, I just went into shock. I just stood there staring, because it was all these, my friend that gave me that trip believes in symbology, in symbolism. I make up my own words sometimes, in symbolism. And that was a real obvious symbolism to me. It was like Archangel Michael was speaking to me. You give and you shall receive, Ashley. It was so amazing. And I stood there for the longest time just staring, and I ended up doing a painting of that statue of Archangel Michael. But I stayed there for 3 weeks, and it was all inclusive, all my food, the beach, painting paintings, and I experienced so much alchemy, tapping into my own spiritual gifts and really tapping in. And it was an extraordinary vacation for me, one that I'd never had in my whole life. And that was a direct dispensation from the universe to me for some spiritual work I had done on the planet. And that's the way it works. You have to have faith. You have to believe in this, and I'm telling you firsthand, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, this law of the universe really works. So sometimes we'll give in one way and we'll receive in another. Like in that case, I received a beautiful vacation. Somebody might take you to lunch. There's just so many ways that you can receive from the universe. Let me take a moment to look at my notes. So whatever you give, this is how the law of the universe is stated. Whatever you give is returned in ways that are 10 times the value of your gift. That certainly was true for me. And that's the way this universal law works, of giving and receiving tenfold. But in order to be effective in that universal law, remember, you have to work with cause and effect. You have to work with law, cause and effect. You have to master your thoughts. You don't have to be a master right away, but just start to bring awareness and attention to your thoughts, to your actions, to what you're saying. And of course, you're going to be human. Like I said, I'm still working on this. It's in one area in particular right now. So you just start to bring your awareness, your attention. You have to exercise self-love, because that's a huge, huge barrier. You have to learn how to love yourself more, how to have more compassion for yourself. I call myself sweetie and honey all the time. Sometimes I'll mess up. And in the old days, I would just beat myself up. I'd be driving in my car and I would say something nasty to myself, like, oh my gosh, are you ever going to get it? Like I would talk like that to myself all the time. Now I am so kind to myself. I'll say, oh, sweetie, you did it again. Oh, honey. that's how I talk to myself. There's no shame in that for me because I love myself very much. I've developed a beautiful relationship with myself. And when you do, you'll notice that you become filled because we're a reflection of our Creator. We are the light, okay? So we mirror our Creator. So the more we love ourselves, it's really just, it's embodying that unity with our Creator. It's embodying that light, you know? And the more we do that, the less that we need things from others. We become more balanced. We stop seeking and needing things from other people to fill those voids. I'm going to flip my page. Well, isn't that something? See, I'm in the flow. I didn't even know that that was the next topic. I'm talking about self-love. So self-love, it allows the flow of the universe, and it really, really does. It really does. You know, the lesson of self-love took me a long time. Like I said, it was baby steps, you know, from all the years of therapy to, you know, linear ways, therapy ways that's more linear to learn how to love yourself, to then understanding more about the laws of the universe and how spirit works and loving myself in that way. But losing my mother 3 years ago was such a tremendous teacher for me. It was so beyond humbling. And I went through so much during her transitioning period of 3 years that I learned a very deep level of self-love for myself and self-care and compassion. Again, you know, when we lose parents, that's designed to help us to grow and to learn what we need to learn. And that's one of the hardest things, to lose a loved one. But that's, you know, part of our experience here on Earth. It's part of us, you know, learning. We get to deeper levels of self-love and detachment, learning to let go and let God, you know, and to have more faith. So it's all designed so perfectly for us to embody our mastery while we're here on Earth. Again, I'm going to, it's in my notes, that we receive blessings and gifts according to the degree, not decree, making up my own words again. We receive blessings and gifts according to the degree that we've given to others. So there's all kinds of ways we can give to others. You know, there's all kinds of ways. Again, observe your motives. Are you giving freely, or are you giving because you want love back? Are you giving because there's something a void in you that you want filled, or it helps your self-esteem in some way? You must give freely from the heart, with no expectations, with no strings attached, just to give. I knew another friend who was a wonderful mentor for me in Vancouver, and she used to say to me, give for fun and for free. You know, give for fun and for free. So remember, fears constricts. The minute you feel fear, make sure you write that one down. It constricts your energy. It immediately constricts your energy. When you surrender your fears, when you truly surrender into it, that's when you create receptivity for the flow. That's when you open up the receptivity for the flow to come through your life. So, you know, when we get into poverty thinking, lack consciousness, poverty consciousness, fear, we're actually sabotaging ourselves. We're sabotaging the flow of the universe. And a lot of us are trained at self-sabotage. And this isn't something to be critical with yourself about. It's actually kind of designed that way through the media. Self-sabotaging is kind of designed in our society for us to kind of grab onto. So let's not sabotage ourselves. Let's not sabotage our progress. Let's not start believing the lies that we're fed. You know, everything, we create our own reality. This is all illusion. We're creating our own reality, you know? I had a very, very difficult background with a lot of struggle. And it's hardly even a part of my reality anymore. I mean, I never think about it at all. Like I was able to transcend a lot of the fear that I had. I have a beautiful relationship with my dad and with my mom who passed away. And I was able to transcend a lot of the struggle, the fear, the pain, the anger. And that freed me up. It freed me up. So the more that we let go, the more that we surrender our ego, the more that we work on our humility, humble ourselves, and be willing to have compassion for ourselves and compassion for others, the more that we open up the receptivity for the flow. Okay, so this is a very critical part of being able to enact this law of the universe of giving and receiving tenfold, okay? So we're talking about giving freely, checking out your motives, breaking the habit of lack or poverty consciousness in order to really activate this law of the universe, okay? So here is an important part, okay, about giving that we did not discuss yet. A critical aspect to giving is payment to yourself, okay? So if you're, and that's why I brought up myself as an example, if you're giving so much that there's an imbalance, you're causing an imbalance for yourself, then that depicts a lack of self-love, okay? So there'll be an imbalance and you won't be able to access that universal law so readily, okay? So it's an important aspect to payment to oneself and to give to yourself. Otherwise, you're depicting a lack of self-love, okay? So as you give to others and you're of service to others, make sure you're balancing giving to yourself, you're getting enough rest, you're eating foods that are nutritious and that support you, that you're doing things that nurture your soul, you know, whether it be taking a bath or going to a movie or getting together with a friend. Make sure that you have the balance there, you know. It's not just about giving, and then running yourself empty, okay? Because I did do that. And when you have that imbalance, what you'll create is more poverty. You'll create more poverty and more lack because you're telling the universe, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth taking care of myself. I'm not worth giving to myself. So the universe responds, remember? Cause and effect. So the universe goes, oh, okay, well, then we won't give to you, okay? Because we're creating our own reality. We're the masters of our lives, okay? So, so you might want to write that down. That's a very critical part. If you give to others and not to yourself, this depicts lack of self-love. And this creates an unbalance. So by not treating yourself with the same kindness you give to others, a cycle of deprivation is started, okay? So I'm going to repeat that. So when you give to others, like by not treating yourself with the same kindness that you treat others, a cycle of deprivation gets started, okay? And then that can truly snowball. And I've had it happen to me. So everything that I'm sharing with you, I've experienced, you know, everything I ever share with people, I love to share. They're from my own experiences. So be very mindful about that self-love, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and being kind to yourself. And as you give to others, give to yourself so that you don't start that cycle of deprivation, okay? You have to treat yourself with the same kindness. I'm going to take a moment to have a sip of water. I wish I could take some questions. This is actually my first webinar. I've never done a webinar before. And Kamara was saying that we could actually organize it next time so that we can have questions show up on the screen. If you want to text me a question, you're more than welcome. I'll give you my phone number. It's area code 310-908-1997. I'll repeat that. It's area code 310-908-1997. You're welcome to text me a question and I'll try to answer it. Of course, I'm in the flow, so it's not me that's answering it. So again, just as a reminder, if you give because you're making up for the lack of love within, okay? Because a lot of people that overgive, that have an imbalance in giving, they're giving because they're making up for a lack of love within, okay? Then the energies will become blocked, okay? And if you're being stingy with your energy, with your time, with your money, that's going to create a block. So it's all about balance, balance, balance. It's all about balance, okay? If you take a strong stand or you get into that, what I call positionality, that's going to create a block. See, so again, it's all about balance. I have to turn this page again already. So what happened for me when I was in Sedona is that I moved there with an old paradigm running, okay? An old paradigm, old constructs, limiting belief systems, which I thought I was, doing really well. I had my 2 businesses and I was just so used to operating the way I used to operate. And when I got to Sedona, Arizona, my old way would not work anymore for me. So I kind of hit a bottom and I was really terrified. I thought, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Like everything that I had imagined, I imagined opening a gallery or having, an interior design business and having my new car I was gonna buy there, and none of it happened. So, I was in terror because I hadn't mastered my faith the way I have today, and traversing these dense fields, like we can actually surf these energy fields, you guys. We can learn to surf them, right? And it doesn't mean it's all going to be a breeze. It's not, because the more that you expand in the light, the more that your soul expands in consciousness. Sometimes the harder the lessons are, the teachings. But the wonderful news is that we learn. We become masters at traversing the energy and understand how to become the most effective, during a hard time, and how not to lend energy to it and have it exacerbate and become worse, right? So when I was in Sedona, things just started snowballing, especially, you can imagine, I was living in a vortex. So I was really humbled. I was brought to my knees. I had about 3 deaths of my ego, literally. That's an expression that's used, when you are brought to your knees, and it's beyond humbling. And that happened about 3 times to me in the 7 years that I lived there. And by the time I left Sedona, I was a completely different person, I was able to access my gratitude at all times. And let's talk about gratitude. gratitude is so important to be able to activate this law of the universe. You know, you've heard about, it's said many times that to make a gratitude list. Well, imagine, first of all, let's take the law of cause and effect, okay? It's the circular motion. If we're tapping into our gratitude for every little thing that we have, there's so much to be grateful for. I mean, just the fact that we can speak, that we can stand on our 2 feet, that we can see through our eyes, that we can taste food, that we can smell, our senses. That alone is so much to be grateful for. If we have families, if we have good friends, you know, if we happen to have a car, if not, if we happen to have a bus we can ride, there's so much that we can be grateful for. For our jobs, so many people don't have jobs. So many people are homeless. And this is, you know, gone are the days when that just happened to people we didn't know. When I left Sedona 3 years ago, I had 2 women that I knew of that were living in their cars, you know, and they were my age. And I mean, things are not what they used to be. We can find so much gratitude in what we have, and just keep, you know, thanking for everything that we have. And in that gratitude, we're gonna, through the law, the universal law of cause and effect, we're gonna draw more to us, right? Because we're so grateful. And so that's what happened to me, is I started becoming so grateful because I lost everything. And the first time I got a piece of furniture in that empty condo, I was so grateful for that piece of furniture. And I was so grateful for a meal that I never would have considered eating before. You know, what I mean by that is, like, you know, I have very high standards with nutrition in my food, and I'm glad that I do. It really supports me, supports my vessel. But at that time, you know, like, I would have been kind of a snob, you know, about maybe eating at a diner. Remember, I had been in Vancouver and all the 5-star restaurants. So I remember somebody treating me to a $5 breakfast, and I was like so grateful. And I think it was huevos ranchero or something. But it just, like, you know, sometimes we have to go through a lot to get there, to be grateful. And today I'm just so grateful for everything in my life. And my life has blossomed in so many beautiful ways. You know, the thing that I'm the happiest about is my spiritual life, my conscious expansion. By the time I left Sedona, I cried when I left my car, my good karma car. And I made a deal with my brother so that he would keep the car, so that when I come back to Sedona, I can drive that same old little Toyota. And I have a much nicer car now, but, you know, I think of that car and what we went through together, and I feel like that car just held me through these really tough lessons of releasing my ego and surrendering and humbling myself and opening up to the higher streams of energy, you know, and clearing all the density, the old constructs, the old paradigm that no longer served me as a soul, was no longer serving me. So my old thinking of what I needed to do to survive and how I needed to exert my power, my will, and make things happen, you know, all that got completely dismantled. And now the way I operate is very, very different. And I'll know if I'm exerting too much of my own will in a way that's not constructive, because things won't work out. So I understand now how to live in the flow, and how to let go and let God, and how to surrender to the flow, and how to embody my faith in all that I do. And I use myself as an example, because maybe it'll help you to see areas in your life that aren't serving you anymore. Maybe some old belief systems that need to be dissolved. Maybe some deeper ways that you can learn to have more compassion and forgiveness for yourself, so that you can exercise it to others. You know, I just hope that my sharing my story assists you in some way, and that is of service to you. And I also invite you to, let's see, has anybody Nobody's texted me. No texts. Okay. So that's how we tap into that universal law of giving and receiving tenfold. You have to give for fun and for free. You have to let go of fear. You need to just open up your receptivity to be in the flow. And you need to be in gratitude. And, you know, even if you make gratitude lists, you need to find the gratitude in everything that you do have. And embody your faith. Faith to know that you're going to be taken care of. You always are, right? One way or the other, you always are. So why struggle through it, you know? There's a much easier way. When you start to, you know, really tap into the laws of the universe, life becomes so much easier. Yes, we have even harder tests sometimes as we embody our mastery, but we have the tools now to learn how to traverse these fields much easier. I'm going to show you, oh, here it is. I'm going to show you this wonderful book that you might, well, maybe you might like to get. It's called The Light Shall Set You Free by Norma Milanovic. There you go. It's a fabulous book on the laws of the universe. And she's a fabulous teacher. And there are so many wonderful teachers out there, you know. And if you need to beef up your faith, you know, just find a really great spiritual book. Sometimes, you know, when I was like just starting out, I would just need to read spiritual books. And that would help me to start to develop, you know, my faith and my understanding of how things work. There's so many beautiful books out there. Some have been channeled by some wonderful people. And they're all here to anchor in our new era, to assist us in this evolutionary process to expand into the light. And there are wonderful teachers available to us. And so, you know, just open your heart and have fun with this law of the universe. Have fun with giving and receiving tenfold. And, you know, I wrapped up a little early because I'm Latin and I talk fast. Yeah, I was going to take a break, but I decided to just keep going. So it's not that much earlier. Yeah, it's not that much earlier, so we're good. So I really thank you for giving me this opportunity to be of service and for supporting me and living my dream. This is my dream. And this is my abundance, to be able to share myself with people and to share, you know, all the beings of light that express through me and God's love that expresses through me with you. And to be able to, you know, co-create with you on this earth. We're all together and we're all taking this walk together. So let's be kinder to one another, kinder to ourselves, and let's just start giving more and really giving from our hearts. Thanks very much. And this webcast will be available to you. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is keys2consciousliving@gmail.com. That's keys as in KEYS, to consciousliving@gmail.com. Feel free to email me if you're not able to get this webcast or if you have any questions. And I'd like to give you my webpage also. If you want to see what I do and what services are available to you, my webpage is the keys2consciousliving.com. So that's www.thekeys2consciousliving.com. And I just wish freedom for you, freedom from bondage, to just free yourself up, to expand your beautiful soul, to spread your angel wings and to fly and to soar. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being with me this evening. Namaste. Bye-bye.